starting recording, it says. Okay. Now we record. Yeah, it says let everyone know. Glenn, I am recording you. Don't say anything incriminating. Or go ahead and say incriminating things.
Oh shit. Okay.
We've already been saying incriminating things for years. Why didn't anybody warn us?
Yeah, that's right. Most of it's out there in the Ethernet.
You know.
Yeah. Right,
can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah,
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I thought for a second that you lost me. But yeah, I'm ready to go.
All right, let's go.
All right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another action-packed episode of A Work in Progress. I am your host, Brent Piles, and with me, as always, is my friend and cohort, my trusted tag team partner from across the ocean and from the future. He is the ballroom brawling, disco dancing, dynamite church and intercontinental playboy Forks. He's more over than a street fight lingerie battle royal. At G. Russell, Glenn. I have it, Glenn. How are you?
I'm quite glad that I'm more over than that. Yeah, I'm all right, thanks.
That was a mouthful. So,
yeah.
Yeah, so, go ahead. Were you going to say something?
No. Go ahead.
So, this is, me and Glenn usually do a monthly random pay-per-view, or a pay-per-view or premium live event, if you will, where one of us picks one each month, and this month it was my month, and I tried to pick something that is different than anything that we've ever done, as far as this monthly review show. And so we went with a SuperClash 3, which I'll be honest with you people, when I first suggested watching this to Glenn, I did not expect to see a whole lot of good wrestling, but I think Glenn will agree with me that this was a pretty surprising show, right?
It was, yeah. It kicked off strong. There's a couple of iffy bits, but on the whole, it's a good show.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some things in here that's certainly, 1980s wrestling, but when I watched this show, I felt like it didn't seem far off to me than what WWE was presenting in like 1988 around this time. It felt like a very WWE-ish show. And, I grew up on that kind of stuff, so for me it was like a breath of fresh air to watch this. And I actually enjoyed most of it. I think there's probably maybe 2 matches that I thought were ridiculous, but all in all, some of the promos that we'll get into I thought were, they were funny, but at the same time they were kind of sad at the same time. And when we talk about them, you'll know what I mean. But, yeah, so you want to dive right into this thing, Glenn?
Yes, why not?
Absolutely. So SuperClash 3, this is the third SuperClash. It took place on December 13th, 1988 from the UCI Pavilion in Chicago, Illinois. I believe this is where the Chi-Town Rumble pay-per-view from NWA took place, where it was like the first of the 3 major bouts that everyone talks about between Ricky Steamboat and Ric Flair, where Steamboat won the NWA World title from him. I think it took place at the same arena. I think a couple of years later. I don't even know what year that was. I think that might have been 88 too. 88 or 89.
Could have been this year, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a pretty famous arena as far as wrestling was. I don't think they've ever done any WWE stuff there, because they usually do it at what was formerly known as the Rosemont Horizon, but it's now called the Allstate Arena, I believe. And it might even be called something different than that, because, they change these fucking names of these arenas every so often. Whoever gives them the most money, so who knows what it's called. But anyway, this is the only ever AWA event to ever take place, to air on pay-per-view. World Class Championship Wrestling and Powerful Women of Wrestling and Championship Wrestling Association all joined together to put on this big, joint pay-per-view, and it was kind of their last-ditch attempt to try to compete with the WWF. And pretty critically acclaimed bad show, but as me and Glenn go through this, I think we're going to kind of disagree with that. So, but we'll get into the first match. It's a 6-man tag team match. We got the Guerrero Brothers. That's Chavo, Mondo, and Hector taking on, 2 guys I've never heard of, the Rock and Roll RPMs, and definitely a guy I have heard of, and his career was, pretty young at this point, a young Cactus Jack. What'd you think about that? Had you ever heard of the Rock and Roll RPMs, Glenn?
RPMs, no. Mike Davis and Tommy Lane. They're all right. They're a reasonable tag team, but they obviously didn't go on to do anything after this.
Yeah, like I said, I'd never heard of either one of these guys. But yeah, no, I didn't think that they were a bad team. They kind of had like a scraggly look to them, but you know, it's 1980s wrestling, so everybody kind of had a scraggly look to them. But I mean, I thought this was a pretty good way to start the show. It was a pretty high-paced match, and you know, guys flying all over the place, and it was a good way to get the crowd into it, I thought.
Oh God, yeah. And of course, Cactus starts off with bumping all over the place and getting back body dropped onto the concrete.
Yeah, he started that very early on in his career.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
I took note of who the referee was in this match. He was the referee for a number of the matches on this show, and that was Mike Enos. You'll remember Mike Enos was a member of the Beverly Brothers, and the guy who was one of the guys who was in the ring when Scott Hall first showed up on Nitro. So, pretty interesting that he was the referee in most of these matches. He must have just broken the business.
Yeah, definitely.
Either that or, I mean, he's probably training, because I couldn't imagine them putting an actual wrestler in there, but someone who's training, I could see them, you know, get a good feel for it to be a wrestler. I mean, to be a referee, you know what I mean? It's a good way to get your feet wet. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. Yeah, Guerrero's did a lot of cool stuff. Cactus Jack is obviously going to be someone who can work really well. It could be a really good worker. You see it even early on in this match. Can't say a whole lot for RPM. One of the Guerreros missed. So one of the big notes I took from this is like one of the Guerreros did like a top rope jump off the top rope to the outside onto one of the RPM guys, and they completely missed it on camera. They didn't even show it.
No, they missed it completely.
So that was a bit disappointing. And then Hector hit a moonsault off the top rope for the win. Like I said, not a great match, but definitely a good way to open the show.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was a decent heel tag team, putting over 3 really good faces. Yeah,
I think that's a good way to describe it. So periodically they're going to go through and do interviews with women that are going to be in this lingerie street fight battle royal. And I'm going to tell you people right here, right now, I did not watch this lingerie street fight battle royal. I just fast forwarded through it because I didn't want to talk or cover that mess. I have no problem talking about a women's wrestling match, but I don't want to watch a women's wrestling mess. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yes. Yeah,
especially one that involves women getting their clothes ripped off. That's just not something I want to do when I'm 40 years old. You know what I mean?
To be fair, there wasn't a lot of clothes being ripped off.
Oh, really?
It was more being thrown over the top rope and pinned than clothes being ripped.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. Did you watch it? Did you take notes on it?
I've got some notes on it.
Okay, when we get to it, I'll glad to talk about it a little bit, I guess, since you did.
Yeah, it will be a little bit because it was a real clusterfuck, really.
Okay, all right. So the first interview they did, I'm not going to know all these interviews, but this one was interesting to me because it was Nina, and WWF fans will remember Nina as Ivory, and apparently at this point she was the Power of Women of Wrestling champion. And she was going to be in the Battle Royal later. And I didn't know a whole lot about what Ivory had done before she got to WWE, so it was interesting for me to see her here. I believe she had something to do with Glow, but I'm not 100% on that.
Uh-huh.
Did you watch Glow?
No, I didn't.
Okay, I wasn't sure. Yeah, I mean, I know they restarted on Netflix like a few years ago, and I watched like the first couple of episodes, but I never saw anything of the old Glow show. But anyway, the next match is for the World Class Championship Wrestling Light Heavyweight Championship. It is the flamboyant Erich Embry versus Jeff Jarrett, a very young Jeff Jarrett at this point. I've always heard a lot about Erich Embry, but I haven't really seen him wrestle a whole lot. This match was less than 6 minutes, but I thought it was a pretty good match. What do you think?
This sums up this whole show, really. There's a lot of people on it that I'd heard of that I hadn't seen wrestle. And I was quite impressed with a lot of it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, as we go through, there's a few guys too that I had heard about but haven't seen wrestle, and I was really impressed with, especially not so much the next match, but the one after that one. I mean, in this one too, it had really good action. It didn't have any dull moments. It really worked from start to finish. It looked like Jeff Jarrett was going to get counted out because he suffered a shoulder injury. But yeah, I mean, Jarrett tried to do a series of pinfalls, and then Embry was able to counter one of them into his own pinfall. And he wins the belt. He is apparently now the 4-time champion. But yeah, a really decent wrestling match.
Crowd loved it. Certainly, Embry was really over with the crowd. But they hadn't got enough of Jarrett to hate him yet.
Yeah, and it was interesting to me because like it felt like more the world class guys were getting more of a reaction than the AWA guys, and you would think it would be the other way around because AWA is more, in Chicago's region at that point than World Class was, but it just shows you like the stretch that World Class had at that point, that it was even reaching up to Illinois, and like they were the baby faces instead of the people who were, coming from Minnesota, which had been their territory for years, so.
Yeah, it was a shame that, they didn't lose a couple of bits from this and just have that one a few minutes longer. But yeah, it's a good match.
Definitely. That thing could have went at least 10 minutes and it would have been very, very entertaining. Absolutely. We didn't hear from another woman. This one is called The Terrorist. I looked her up on Cage Match, and this is the only match I found for her. So, I don't know anything about The Terrorist. I never saw it before. Apparently she's Russian. She sounded Russian, right?
Yeah, she definitely sounded Eastern European.
Because those were the terrorists in the 1980s, apparently.
I suppose, yeah.
Yeah, and so that was the only thing I wanted to say is that I looked up a lot of these ladies on Cage Match and I found nothing for any of them. The one I was most offended by was Pocahontas. I went, come on, goddammit.
You'd think there'd be something, wouldn't you?
Yeah, damn it. And then the next match was a very short match. It's Wayne Bloom, who is going to go on to be the referee for many of the matches tonight. Mike Enos' tag team partner in the Beverly Brothers, and he took on the Boogie Woogie Man Jimmy Valiant. And this lasted 24 seconds.
Yep. This is one of the things that they could have just done without. I don't know why they actually needed it, unless it was contracted that Jimmy Valiant had to have a match.
Yeah, Jimmy Valiant says, well, you're going to have a pay-per-view. I get to dance on it, damn it.
Yeah.
I mean, he got a big reaction from the crowd, and the crowd got a huge pop from the quick win because he kind of jumped him before, and it looked like he was going to, manhandle him, but then Jimmy Valiant hit like a couple of back elbows and an elbow drop, and he pinned him, which is the most simplest pin I think I've ever seen in wrestling. He just did an elbow drop and pinned him.
Yep, that was it.
But I guess The Rock did elbow drops and pinned people for years, and we bought that shit, so.
Yeah, but at least he did a little bit extra as well.
Yeah,
it wasn't just
on it.
a minute.
That's true. And then we get to the Texas Heavyweight Championship match, and it's Brickhouse Brown battling Iceman King Parsons. And I thoroughly enjoyed this match. I'd never really seen either one of these guys wrestle, and I thought they worked great together, and I thought it was a really good match. I was super impressed with Iceman King Parsons, with the way he worked and the way he could move, and I thought Brickhouse Brown looked like $1 million.
Exactly. I've heard a lot from the guys on Booking the Territory about the pair of them, but I've never actually ever seen either of them wrestle. So this was a nice thing for me to see and actually get to see the pair of them working. Because apparently, although he was a heel in this, Iceman King Parsons was a really nice guy.
Oh, really? Well, that's good. I mean, I think he came in, he was a babyface for years, wasn't he? And maybe he just recently turned heel. I'm not sure. I remember from the World Class documentary that they had on WWE Network on Peacock, and I remember them talking about Iceman King Parsons eventually being a member of the Freebirds, and I don't know if that had happened yet at this point, but I don't know. But yeah, I thought both the guys were great. This match had really good action, good selling. Brickhouse Brown thought he got the win with the flying body press, but Iceman King Parsons had one of his feet on the bottom rope. And while he celebrated, King Parsons pulled some brass knucks out of his tights, gave Brickhouse Brown a punch in the face, got the 1, 2, 3 in the win. And this is probably, that's one of my favorite matches on the show now that I look at it, because it was really, really great. I mean, none of these matches are super long besides the Lawler Kerry Von Erich match, but I just really, really enjoyed that match. It was really good.
It was. It definitely was.
And then we went to a mixed tag team match where apparently all the belts were on the line. Apparently the women's championship and the tag team championships were all on the line. It is Wendi Richter and the Top Guns, I think was the name of the team. Is that right?
Let's have a look. Top Guns, yeah.
Okay. Ricky Rice and Derek Dukes, and they're taking on Badd Company, which is, of course, Paul Diamond and Pat Tanaka, and they've got Madusa Michelli with him, who, you'll know as Alundra Blaze or just simply as Madusa. DDP is also the manager for Badd Company, and I'd never heard of the Top Guns in my life. How about you?
No, I hadn't. And that's why they put Wendi Richter with them. Giving them a top woman that everybody knew.
Yeah, that's
to get them on.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, Wendi Richter had already had her run as WWF Women's Champion and, being with Cyndi Lauper and all that, so she was already a big name. So, yeah, I found it interesting because do you remember when WWE, like in 1995, did like a match like this where it was Shawn Michaels and Diesel. They were the Intercontinental Champion and the WWF Champion, and they faced the Tag Team Champions, which was Yokozuna and Owen Hart. But then Owen Hart got stuck at the airport because his wife was having a baby, or I don't remember, some shit. And so British Bulldog stepped into his place, and all the belts were on the line. Do you remember that?
I don't actually, no.
Well, I'm a mark, so I remember that, and that just reminded me of this. And I was wondering if maybe they stole the idea from this, because it's just a weird concept to have like a match where belts are on the line that shouldn't be on the line in a tag team match,
That's right. Yeah, why they couldn't have had Madusa against Wendi Richter for the women's title instead of having a men's tag match thrown in on it as well.
Yeah, that's true. You could have just eliminated this tag team match altogether and just had that, or you could have taken out one of the other matches and had those ladies wrestle each other, which would have been fine. But yeah, I mean, this wasn't bad. This was another decent match. I think it speaks to how good of a tag team Badd Company was, and how good of workers Madusa and Wendi Richter were at the time. So I mean, it was entertaining for sure.
Yeah. Again, another hooky finish with Tanaka accidentally kicking Madusa. Richter getting the 3.
Yeah. So yeah, really. Good, sorry.
And it looked like the referee actually botched the count, but I'm not sure about that. So
I must have missed it. Maybe I wasn't paying that close of attention because I must have missed that. Yeah, after the match, Madusa attacks Wendi Richter, and then she starts screaming at both of her tag team partners. She smacks them both. Then she walks off, and then I thought it was funny they asked DDP about her, and he's like, "Here's Madusa, I don't even know the broad."
Yeah.
I also found a very interesting note on Mr. Derek Dukes. Glenn, did you ever listen to the Crime and Sports episode on the NFL player Mark Gastineau?
Yes, I think I did.
He's the one who was dating Bridget Nielsen for a time. You know who Bridget Nielsen is, right?
Yes, I did.
So you'll remember in that he was Gastineau, after he quit playing NFL, he became a boxer, and he had several fights that were found out to be thrown. Well, his first fight was against Mr. Derek Dukes, who was in this tag team match, and he knocked him out in the first round, but it was later found out that Dukes took a dive.
That's a surprise.
So I thought that was very interesting. And then we got the most confusing promo of the night until he had a promo later in the night, and that was given by Mr. Kerry Von Erich. And wow.
Great. For all his looks and his wrestling acumen, the art of promos wasn't his forte, really.
This is like, remember when I told you like parts of this were sad? Watching him try to talk, it was sad. Like at first I was like, are you kidding me? And then it was just like, oh, and it just felt bad for him.
Yeah.
It was one of the most confusing promos I have ever heard, Glenn, and we do a show on the career of Psycho Sid.
That's exactly right.
And I should tell you everything you need to know about what he said. Something about the Eiffel Tower and Mona Lisa, and he wishes he was in Texas. It was very weird.
Yeah. Everything about the guy, said professional wrestler, the look, the talent, everything until he opens his mouth.
Yeah, and I think David was a good promo, but I didn't think any of the Von Erichs were very good promo. I didn't think Kevin was a very good promo either. I'm sorry, I just didn't. I'm sorry. So the next match is for the International Television Championship, and that is Greg Gagne battling Ron Garvin. I don't know. What did you think about this exciting contest?
I suppose it was all right. It's what it was. They kept on going on about Ron Garvin, Fist of Stone, wherever it was, and yet every time he hit Gagne, he hardly sold it. Just seemed a bit strange to me.
Gagne said, my daddy booked this show. I don't have to sell for anybody.
That's
right. Okay, I will say that, like, I don't think this was a great match by any means, but it did remind me of a match that I would have seen, on like a Saturday night's main event in the late 90s or in the early 90s or the late 80s. And so for that reason, I enjoyed it because it felt like that pace of match. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Can't even say it was all right. It was there. It was entertaining enough, and that's what you can say about it.
Yeah, one thing I thought was funny from this match was, for years in wrestling, you get the guy in the turnbuckle, you climb up to the second turnbuckle, you punch him in the head, the count, the fans count with you, they count all the way up to 10. Well, Gagne stopped at fucking 7.
I know.
Who stopped at fucking 7?
Probably can't count to 10.
I was like, well, that's anticlimactic. Yeah, so they tumble to the outside of the ring. They're brawling outside the ring. Eventually, the bell is called for. They say Gagne got into the ring faster, but I don't believe it. So I'm going to say Gagne wins because his daddy said so. He wins the belt by a countout, which is the most boring way to win one. And Gagne is International Television Champion.
This was just a means to getting the belt on Gagne. As you say, because Daddy said so.
Yeah, I suppose so. All right, the next thing was the street fight lingerie battle royal. What'd you think, Glenn?
Just before that, we had Jerry Lawler cut a good promo.
Oh yeah, that was much better than what anything Kerry Von Erich said.
Yeah. Yeah, now this street fight lingerie battle royal. It was a mess that ended well. There were too many women in it. And I enjoyed seeing Luna Vachon in there.
Oh, I didn't know Luna was in it.
Yeah, she was in there.
Darn.
Basically, that's all you could say about it. It was for the time, it was getting the women some publicity, which they weren't anywhere else. So good on them for that. The terrorist wins it.
Does she, huh?
Yeah.
I was hoping at least Irie would win it, considering that she was like the whatever champion, but I guess.
No, it was, can't read me writing here.
Yeah.
The farmer's daughter, whatever her name was, May something or the other. Anyway.
Oh, okay.
The way that Luna was eliminated, but she got up to the top rope, which is something you should never do in a battle royal.
No,
and then got knocked off. And she took a hell of a bump to an unpadded floor. Which explains a lot of what went on with her later, I think.
Yeah, probably. Maybe I should have watched it. I was just afraid it was just going to be like Braun Panties Mania, and I didn't want to see that.
It wasn't, luckily.
That's good. Well, that's good news, I guess. We then went to the boot camp match between Sergeant Slaughter and Colonel DeBeers, who's also got DDP with him. Just an anything goes match, obviously. I mean, these guys really beat the shit out of each other, and this was another fun match.
Oh yeah, I love the way that the helmet kept on swapping between them and headbutting the other one with it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the match. Go ahead.
It's another hooky finish.
There was a lot of swerves. Yeah, and the problem with the hooky finish on this one is like it's supposed to be an anything goes match. So, and it was weird that it was like it felt like WCW uncensored, where they tell you everything's uncensored. It's a no DQ match, and then the Macho Man wins the match by disqualification.
Yeah, and that's Sergeant Slaughter won it by being beaten up by Sheik. Other people.
Adnal and Casey came out there. They had the Iron Sheik out there, and then finally the Guerrero brothers hit the ring to make the save. So Sarge wins. But I didn't see a submission or a pin. So he won by DQ in a no DQ match.
I don't know. It seems strange that Vince saw enough in Slaughter to take him back to the WWF at this point and make him world champion or WWF champion.
Well, I mean, that can't come till like 91, so like 3 years later even.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty strange when you look back on it. I mean, if you believe the story that Sergeant Slaughter tells, they brought Sergeant Slaughter back because Hogan didn't want to work with anyone else. I don't think I believe that, but that's what he said. I mean, that might be what Vince told Slaughter, but I don't believe that to be true. That's what I mean. I don't mean that Sergeant Slaughter's lying. I mean, someone else might have lied to this stuff.
Yeah, that's right. Of course, he'd believe it.
Yeah, definitely. And then we get into, it's the World Class Championship Wrestling Tag Team title match. The Samoan SWAT team, which is just the head shrinkers if for you WWE fans. Samu and Fatu, they've got Buddy Rogers with them, who's dressed like a fucking idiot. And then, they're taking on Michael Hayes, who I've heard a lot of, and Steve Cox, who I've never heard of. You ever heard of Steve Cox?
No.
Okay, what if I told you he was Steve Do It To It Cox? Then have you heard of him?
Still not.
Well, okay, because they kept calling him Steve Do It To It Cox, and I'm like, I wish they would stop fucking calling him that, because it makes me like him less every time they say it.
Exactly.
Because exactly, what does he do it to? I don't get it. What does that mean?
I just wanted the Samoan SWAT team to squash them, and they did, unfortunately. It went on far too long.
And this was another, screwy finish. Yeah, I mean, this match was fine. I guess it was another okay tag team match. It wasn't one of the best matches on the show. I mean, Michael Hayes was always the better the promo guy. He's a serviceable wrestler, but he's not really a great wrestler. You know what I mean?
That's right. As you say, he was the mouthpiece of, I can't think of what they're called.
The Freebirds, Fabulous Freebirds. Yeah. I would, if this was Michael Hayes and Terry Bam Bam Gordy versus the Samoan SWAT team, I think you're looking at a different match, but this was just kind of there for me.
Yeah.
Michael Hayes hits a DDT on Fatu, but then, Buddy Rogers gets in the ring and he uses his wallet, which they say, it's wrapped to a chain though. I don't know what's in that wallet, but he hits Michael Hayes in the head with this wallet. That is enough to take Michael Hayes down for the count. And the Samoan SWAT team retain the tag team titles.
Yeah.
You ever seen anybody knocked out with a wallet, Glenn?
Not unless it's got a brick or something in it, no.
I've never seen a wallet big enough to contain a brick.
Well, you don't know what he had it mixed with, do you?
That's true. Maybe it's encased in carbonite like Han Solo. I don't know. You don't know. But it was enough to take out Michael Hayes, and they win the match. And then we get into, it is an Indian strap match that is Manny Fernandez battling Wahoo McDaniel. They first introduced IWGP Heavyweight Champion Fujinami to the crowd. And then Manny Fernandez then starts yelling at him, challenges him to a match. He then grabs Manny Fernandez by the arms, and then Wahoo starts whipping him with the strap. These guys beat the ever-living shit out of each other.
They certainly did.
Yeah.
It was violent, shall we say.
Yeah, both guys were busted open. It didn't take very long for that to happen. This is one of those traditional strap matches, the ones I like, when you have to drag your opponent around and touch all 4 turnbuckles to win. Didn't they have a strap match recently?
Yeah, they did. Who was it?
And you had to touch all 4 turnbuckles to win, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, who was in that fucking strap match? It was recently.
It was. I can't think.
Now I gotta look it up.
Yeah.
WWE strap match 2025. Let's see. What'd you say?
No, it was 2024, but yeah.
Oh, was it?
I don't know.
Oh, what the hell are we talking about here? Oh, that's because I put WWW, not WWE. Yikes.
Looking for the World Wide Web. strap match.
Liv Morgan defeated Rhea Ripley at Bad Blood 20. No, that wasn't a strap match, was it?
No.
No. Google, you're failing me. This is all Elon Musk's fault, I'm telling you. Oh, CM Punk and Drew McIntyre at Bash in Berlin had a strap match.
That was it.
Yeah. That's what. No, wait. Yes, Bash at Berlin. Yes, Bash at Berlin.
Yeah.
I knew it. We knew it. We did it. It took us a little while, but we got it together. We figured it out. Anyway, back to the strap match. Yeah, hard hitting for sure. It looks like Wahoo's going to win. He's touched all 3 turnbuckles, but then Manny Fernandez just kicks him in the nuts, which is a great way to stop a man from getting to the next turnbuckle, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Fernandez tried to come off the top rope, which is something you probably shouldn't do in a strap match.
No.
Because he just grabbed him and yanked him down. Wahoo then, she ties it up. He ties the strap around Fernandez's hands and then he starts dragging him to the turnbuckles. He gets to 3 of them. Manny starts to struggle before they get to the 4th. Then he tries to kick Wahoo off, but he kicks Wahoo into the 4th turnbuckle. Wahoo wins.
Yeah.
They brawl all the way to the back.
They couldn't even do a straight finish in a strap match.
Nope, it had
That's
to be
amazing.
funny.
Yeah.
You know what, Glenn? I looked past all that. I didn't realize until right now how many of the matches on this show had a screwy finish. It's almost all of them.
Yeah.
It is almost all of them. And speaking of matches that have a screwy finish, this was the one everybody came for. This is the one that all 101 people bought on pay-per-view. I'm sure it was more than that, but I'm just kidding. Was here to see Jerry the King Lawler, the AWA champion battle Kerry Von Erich, the World Class Championship Wrestling champion in a unification match. And yeah, I mean, the crowd was really into this one. I think every fan was on their feet the entire match, I think.
I know.
It wasn't a lot of them. They were happy about it.
I've just read something in the notes here. It's quite funny. They were going on about how his arm was bleeding from early on, Kerry Von Erich. Yeah. Well, apparently he did that backstage accidentally before, forgetting that he had a blade on his finger.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually heard that story. Yeah, he had a blade taped to his finger because this match, he bleeds fucking buckets in this match. But he wasn't supposed to be bleeding buckets from his arm. Apparently he was talking to somebody in the back, would just scratch his arm and cut his fucking arm open. And so they had to do this weird thing at the beginning where they said, Lawler hit his arm on the turnbuckle or something like that. So his arm, and he kept looking at it too. And I'm like, stop looking at it. Why are you looking at it? Stop doing that. And then he gets in the ring before the match and he starts talking and he sounds like a guy who hasn't got a concussion just right now. Like before he came out, somebody hit him with a chair and now he's dazed.
I know.
Because he referred to the Leaning Tower, the Eiffel Tower as the Leaning Tower of fucking pizza.
Yeah.
More than once.
I don't even know why he was going on about the Eiffel Tower, to be honest.
I don't either. He got one thing in his mind, 2 things in his mind, the Mona Lisa and the Eiffel Tower. He kept the Mona Lisa and turned the Eiffel Tower into fucking pizza. God damn. Next up, we're going to have to start the life and times of Kerry Von Erich because apparently his promos are equally as ridiculous.
Yeah. His story is certainly interesting.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But I mean, all in all, a pretty good wrestling match. And the only, Jerry Lawler that I've really seen is the WWE Jerry Lawler, so this is a whole different thing to me.
Yeah. I had seen some thanks to Jeremy.
Right.
He's this is more of the Jerry Lawler from this time rather than the clown that was in WWF and WWE.
I mean, it was your classic babyface versus heel match. I mean, Lawler was doing all the underhanded shit, and then, you know, Kerry was doing the come from behind. Kerry gets busted open early. He literally bled everywhere. I mean, he started out with white trunks, and not much of that was white. Not much of them were white after the match was over. I mean, he bled buckets.
He did. And I'm not sure it was really necessary for it to be that bloody, to be honest. But there you go. It was what it was for the time. The crowd seemed to love it.
The crowd definitely ate up the entire match, 100%. I mean, there was a lot of stuff in here. The King hit a pile driver, but then Kerry no-sold it. He hit Lawler with the spinning. They kept calling it a discus punch because he was a discus thrower back in the day. And then Kerry hit him with the pile driver, but the referee was down because they did like a pin attempt where Lawler pushed Lawler over and onto the referee, so the ref couldn't count the pin. It was basically like they wanted Lawler to win the match, but they didn't want Kerry to look weak. So they did everything they could do to make Kerry, you know, stay strong, but have Lawler win the match.
That's right. And that's why they came up with the finish they did, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, out of all the matches that had a screwy finish, I guess I understood this one the most because while this didn't go anywhere afterward, if it were to go somewhere afterward, you could have built, you know, rematches from this and probably done more business. But unfortunately, I think these guys could all work together. And I don't think Verne Gagne paid anyone that wasn't an AWA wrestler for the show. So things aren't really going to work out when you don't pay people.
We just get to the winner and the world's most ridiculous blood stoppage and new unified champion, Jerry Lawler.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody almost probably knows the story. Lawler's like locked in the claw. There's no way he's going to get out. But instead of stopping the match and awarding it to Kerry Von Erich, they somehow then decide at that point he cannot continue even though he's dominating the match. They stop it. And Jerry Lawler is now the undisputed champion. He then tells the crowd it's a good thing they did that because if they had not, he would have blinded Kerry Von Erich, which I thought was a nice touch. They did like a thing with some old guy, I don't know who he was, and he said the reason why they stopped the match is because after the strap match, he told the referee to stop any matches with excessive blood, and if that were true, they should have stopped this match 10 minutes before it got stopped.
It should have been, yeah.
Yeah, and they said there will be a rematch, but there won't. We then, for some reason, go to another match, which is the main event of the evening. It is the Stud Stable taking on the Rock and Roll Express. This should have kicked the show off with this shit match, I think.
Well, yeah. The only reason this is the main event is because it's got the Rock and Roll Express in it.
Yeah, and I thought, they're doing this because they want to send the crowd home happy. And it ends in a double fucking countout.
Yeah.
Why didn't they have the Rock and Roll Express win? Like, it makes no sense.
I know. No.
I guess the rationale is that these are like a bunch of guys from multiple different promotions, and they probably had to agree to screw job finishes because nobody wanted to look weak and they wanted to keep everybody strong. So even if someone lost, they only lost because X, Y, and Z. So that's probably why they did it. If you look at it like that.
Yeah. And the trouble with this is that by this, after Jerry Lawler against Kerry Von Erich, the crowd were ready to go home.
Yeah.
They didn't need the last match.
I think most of the crowd did go home.
Yeah, I think they probably did.
I think they did, yeah. Yeah, so I mean, that's it. But all in all, we usually do like thumbs up, and I'm giving this show 2 thumbs up. I thought it was very entertaining.
Oh, definitely. it definitely doesn't deserve the criticism it's got. You know, we're being hypercritical of it by saying about all the screwy finishes. But on the whole, it was a good, entertaining show.
And like I said earlier, I think if you line this up with any WWE pay-per-view at that period, I think you're looking about par for course, because they had a lot of screwy finishes back then too, but a lot of that stuff got overlooked because there wasn't the internet for everybody to get on and bitch about. So I don't think people even realized that there were so many screwy finishes because they didn't know any better.
That's right. Yeah, two thumbs up from me.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I get why they get so much hate, because like from a financial standpoint, they didn't make any money and nobody got paid, and all these companies ended up shutting down, except for fucking Memphis, which ran for many more years after this, within a couple of years. But all in all, I think it's an entertaining show for sure.
Yeah, you say that though, but there was still Memphis around. Smoky Mountain was just just about to come out, and so there was plenty of wrestling around for people that weren't in the WWF or WCW at that time.
Yeah, that's true. I think WCW was maybe got sold to Turner, or was just going to get sold to Turner in 1988. I think that's around the time they did it.
I think 100%
so. On that. I'm sure UTT Rob will help me out in the YouTube comments on that one, because he is a much smarter man than I. And I'm fine with admitting that. But that's it. That's all for this episode. Glenn, who do you want to plug before we get out of here?
I talked about Rob and Dan doing Booking the Territory, the first and last of wrestling, and their side projects, Unstacking the Territory, the Road to Wembley for 1981 for Big Daddy and Giant Haystack, and the most watched wrestling match of all time with 18 million viewers. And Booking the Tankatori, the Life and Times of Tank Abbott, who we shamelessly ripped off, and being the Elite Gator Golf. It just finished up on Series 2 of that. And of course,
the Doctor Who Podcast with Danny Inside. That is on SJP World Media.
And not forgetting DDT Wrestling with DC Hancock.
Make sure you give all those fine people a follow and a listen. And, of course, give a follow to the other member of our podcast team, the Mayor of Kent. He's at Mayor of Kent. Give him a follow. I'm sure he says lots of funny things because he's a funny guy. And, of course, give us a subscribe on YouTube. That would be great. We've got the Life and Times of Psycho Sid. There's like 60-some episodes of there for you to enjoy. We've also got an entire year of WWF 1997 that we covered on there. And there's a show called A Cup of UK Heritage where we watched all the NXT UK Heritage Cup matches. So there's lots of stuff on there for you to watch. I have a video on there that details the history of the Dungeon of Doom. It currently has 50,000 views. I'm sorry, not million. That would be a lot. 50,000 views, so you can check that one out too. But yeah, just subscribe to us on YouTube. That is really all I can do for you as far as information on when stuff's going to come out on the show is on YouTube, because I don't have any other social media because they kicked me off of Blue Sky because apparently I said some things that I wasn't supposed to, even though I don't know what I said. So I can't help you on what I said or what I didn't say. I did say something about maybe if I was a Manchester City fan, I would want to punch Anderson in the face, but I was only kidding. Jesus.
Yeah, well.
You gotta lighten up. You gotta lighten up. I would never be a Manchester City fan, and if I were, I'd punch myself in the face.
That's fair.
But anyway, that's it. I got nothing else to say. Just tell them goodbye.
Goodbye.
There we go.